Welcome back to another episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast, the podcast for off-market operators looking to level up their game. I'm recording this podcast. It's a solo episode, so it's a Friday focus episode. I'm recording it from solitude, actually in a hotel room, in my dingy hotel room here in Solitude, Utah. We're doing a little ski trip with the we've got about 12 people in the scale community here, all wanting to come here, meet up, just have kind of a fun little ski trip. A lot of good friends and relationships that we've built in the scale community. So it's always good to just get together with people, but then just really talk about our businesses and go over some of the different aspects of our goals. And this time we're talking a lot about fulfillment, not just in business, but in our personal lives and our time, and really kind of resetting. Everybody joined our community to level up their business so that they could use and leverage their business for other things in life. And so it's really a good check-in for that sort of thing. And one of the things that we did yesterday was with one of our scale members. He's one of our OG members, been in the group since 2023. Shane, he's actually up here in Washington near Mike and I in an adjacent market. Anyways, we did what we call a 0 to 1 conversation. And it's basically going from nothing into this business to running a full-time business and being a profitable business. And so Shane, went through the different phases. So I'm going to go through the 5 phases of his build-up to now being a highly successful operator in this business. And it was really cool, inspirational to see him talk about all the steps, because they really do mimic the steps Mike and I went through as we built our business. But he actually, I think he joined the scale community in 2023, but he had a W-2 job, a really high paying job. He was making $200K a year, really good career. But this is where he really wanted to plant his flag and get out of his W-2 job. And this was the business he was going to do it. And so he decided to join the scale community and learn how to do wholesaling and flipping and all the off-market real estate that we teach in the scale community. But it's not easy to leave and walk away from a $200,000 a year job. But Shane did. And so, we'll cover the different phases on how he did that and how he's now making more money than he actually did at his day job. And it really, starts, phase 1 is what he described himself as like the starting line. He attended our first ever KeysCon, just Q4 of 2023. We had a group of maybe 14 or 15 of our community members there. It was a really good time. We went down to Scottsdale, rented a mansion, did kind of a boot camp style meetup where we really went through the day-to-day of how you can scale your business in the off-market game. And Shane hadn't really started his business. He kind of was dabbling, but really hadn't done anything yet. But that was really his jumping off point. He got to see other people doing what he wanted to do, and just gave him, in his words, all the confidence in the world that if they can do it, he can really copy them. And one of the favorite things that we were at dinner the other night, and Shane was telling me, he's like, I'm kind of inherently lazy in the sense that, like, I want to figure out how to do things the easiest, most efficient way, so I don't have to work hard every single day trying to build things. And so in the terms of being lazy, not that he doesn't work hard, but that he can really rinse and repeat, rip off and duplicate in an efficient way of what other people before him are doing. And that's exactly what he did. And that was kind of some of the truth of his story, was just like following the path that he knew and he believed in from what Mike and I had talked about and what others in the scale community were already doing. The other thing I appreciate about him is, he really did follow what Mike and I always talked about. Like, you can't really get this business going without lead generation. A lot of people try to bootstrap it, and it takes a long time. But in reality, things like cost per deal exist in an average across the country in a very similar format for most people. And so it's really hard. You got to have a ton of time and a ton of effort and energy, or you got to start spending some money. And so I think Shane spent it all 3 of those areas, but he started marketing right away. And right after KeysCon, October, November, December, he started spending, looks like $2,200, then $3,500, then about another 30 months of about $3,500. He started getting leads, no deals. So Q4 was a goose egg. He was getting the leads, he was working on it, and talked to his first sellers. But his big lesson in this phase was that this is not a real estate investing business. This is a sales and marketing company. So you got to learn how to market, and you got to learn how to talk to sellers. And you got to learn how to sell yourself and your solutions for the sellers. the output of this is real estate investment opportunity, but that's not usually why people get into it. And they usually are caught off guard that it really is a sales and marketing business. So as we lean into what he would call phase 2, which is really understanding the business A to Z, this was Q1 in 2024. So he had his little goose egg of marketing and no deals, which is not uncommon. So I wouldn't even call it a goose egg, but he just walked away and quit his job because he knew he needed more time allocated to do this business if he was going to do it right. And he kept spending on marketing. Looks like he was around $3,500 each month in Q1. And he said he was working 8 to 14 hours a day, just really immersing himself in the business, immersing himself in the scale community, and really giving back whenever he learned anything, but then also being willing to ask questions and be humbled on things he didn't know. He did get his first deal under contract, but if you look at his revenue stream, he still didn't make any money. So that's 6 months with no money but marketing spend. But he was really dedicated. He was still getting leads. He was talking to more sellers. He was working his butt off. Finally gets his first contract, which is really, it was month 4, so it was in January of Q1. Is really about a good timeline. And if you think about this business, some people, you get lucky or you do really well early on, but say it's 3 to 4 months before you get your first contract, and it's maybe another month or 2 before that revenue comes in. So you got to be willing to either work really hard with no pay or spend more money to get more leads and generate more opportunities for a period of time. And that's where most people just quit and they tap out and they give up. But during this phase, Shane mentioned that the biggest lesson is that there's just a ton of opportunity that comes at you in this business. A ton of different things are thrown at you all the time. But networking and staying relevant and working with others, because it is a team sport, is highly important. And that's how you start monetizing your deals. That's how you start growing. That's how you do what he said, like learning the business and understanding it from A to Z. And then you get into the doing whatever it takes phase, which is Q2 of 2024, which is where, he's 100% committed, right? He's been spending money for 6 months. Now he doesn't have a W-2 job. It's just the full immersion, doing everything he can to get these deals across the finish line. His first closing happens in April 2024, where he makes $32,000. And then he signs 3 more deals. So now you can kind of start seeing the snowball picking up, and he's learned that the business is hard, but he's also overcome that by putting in the energy, putting in the effort. And I can attest to this time period. I mean, Shane was really grinding, always on all of our scale calls, always asking questions, always presenting deals and talking about them, and really, really, truly committed to making this thing work. It was pretty amazing to watch during this phase. And then from there, I mean, he started getting more and more opportunities, started increasing marketing spend. I think into Q3 of 2024, he started spending up to $7,500 because now he's seeing the money coming in and he's starting to feel like, okay, if I double my marketing spend, that's how I'm going to get double the leads. And that's really what he started doing. He started getting a deal consistently every single month. And this is where he kind of felt like he went through a loss of focus phase, which is not uncommon because he was starting to make deals, but then he was starting to do flips and getting distracted. Mike and I, our story is follows the same path. We started doing projects, big rehabs, started distracting us financially and mentally. Like we just didn't have the mental capacity, right? We weren't following up with sellers because we were focused on rehabs and rental properties and all that sort of stuff. So he even had a month where he stopped marketing, which he found out, that's, if you stop marketing in a month, you might have a deal that month, but the next 2-3 months, your deals start going away. So you really learning that you've got to consistently market and you got to keep going out there, even when you're busy, and don't get distracted by pulling out resources from your business. Because remember, this is a marketing and sales business and you need to get deals under contract. And when in doubt, I always say wholesale it before you decide to flip it or keep it until you feel like you have the capacity to take that on. Because if you do it too early, like Shane found out, you lose focus and your business suffers. Which brings us to the past 6 months, really his last phase, which is where he's been figuring it out. And he hired his first acquisition manager. He's fired his first acquisition manager. He's really making all his decisions based on KPIs and what he needs to do next in his business, and really learning to deal with the cash crunch of the business, because that's in truly managing it from the KPI standpoint and the financial cash crunch, because this is a cash intensive business. Real estate in general is. Anytime you're flipping or buy and hold, you're consuming resources. When you're marketing for deals, You got to consume resources. Mike and I typically get a 7x, 7 times return on our marketing spend. So we know that as a KPI that if we want to make a certain amount of money, we need to spend X amount in marketing. And then we need to hit all of our other sales KPIs to make sure we get that return on our ad spend. But as Shane learned, you got to figure out how to get through that cash crunch, keep marketing, and make decisions that do not distract you from the main core of the business. And it was really exciting because now he's at this point coming into Q1 2025. He's had a deal every single month for 9 months straight, where he's also had some months with 2 deals a month, and his average revenue per deal is $31,644. That's pretty amazing. And he is now making more money. So he's making about $200K a year in his W-2. Right now, I think his profit for the last rolling 12 months is like $225,000, which is freaking amazing and super exciting to see. And to be honest, he followed the exact same path Mike and I did, a lot of the same humps and bumps. And so we see this across all of our scale members that are truly committed in growing and scaling their business. It's almost identical depending on the market you're in. And if you're committed to growing the business, these timelines are all about the same. The revenue's about the same. Like, it's really, the KPIs are about the same. It's really a consistent thing. So if you're hurting in the market you're in, it could just be the way you're operating and managing your business, the way you're managing through KPIs, the way you're managing your capital. You're likely not doing enough. And if you don't have enough capital, like I said earlier, you got to put a hell of a lot more energy into the business and get those leads generated so that you can convert them into deals. So just quickly to wrap this up, just going over some of the biggest mistakes that Shane listed out. So hopefully this helps you. And if you've made these mistakes, you can resonate with these. Really, the biggest one he said was just his mindset around the business and really understanding what it is. It is a sales and marketing business, and you need to be able to recognize the seller's motivation and start solving their problems. And the sooner you can do that, that's when you start picking up at a clip those deals. That's where you get 9 months of consistently closing 1 or 2 deals every single month, is once you figure out the marketing sales piece and how to recognize opportunity through the seller's needs. You really, really can make this business something to scale it. On the money side, he said, learning and having a better understanding of deploying the capital. And this goes back to when to deploy, when to flip. When in doubt, wholesale it, even if it's a little 5K bump. Don't try to push for deals and say, well, I can't wholesale, so I'm going to flip it. Those are always the ones that you lose on. It just never works out. Because if it's not a good enough deal for you to wholesale and make even a 5 or 10K fee, you should not be flipping it yourself, because you're going to siphon off resources and slow your business down, and you might not make any money off of it. And the biggest thing is, and Shane noted this, is like you can run out of that dry powder pretty quickly, that cash, and that just affects your marketing. And when you have money on the line for a flip, you have to shove resources over there to get that thing wrapped up so you can get your money back. You can't just say, I'm going to stop this flip so I can go market. That's not a good idea. And then, just along that line is always keep those reserves on hand so that you can be ready and pivot, that you can get through these tough times. Because like you can see here for Shane, he was marketing for 6 months really before he started to get any revenue. But he consistently marketed, which was the key. And then that snowball, that flywheel started spinning and growing for him. So anyways, I'll leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed this. This is kind of like our first 0 to 1. We tried to record this with Shane yesterday when we actually did the live interview in front of the group, and the podcast studio kept kicking us out, so we couldn't get it done. So you had to deal with me doing it. But hopefully we could do some more of these live at other events and post them up here, and you guys can learn, from the Scale community members themselves. So hopefully you enjoy this. If you had any questions about this, hit me up on Instagram at InvestorManDan or Mike at Mike_invest. We'd be happy to share what we know. So have a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch you all next week.